Jenny Thompson stood in her parents' kitchen, staring at the folded note resting beside a half-empty cup of tea. The words on the paper were short, cruel and final. "Wedding's off. Expect a call from my lawyer." For a long moment she couldn't move. The morning sun crept lazily through the curtains, washing the counter in soft orange light that felt too calm for such devastation. Her breath caught somewhere between disbelief and fury. What did she mean, the wedding's off? She whispered, voice trembling. But no one answered. Not her mother, not her father, not even the ticking clock above the stove. Jenny folded the note slowly, her fingers stiff, as if even touching it might shatter something fragile inside her. She looked around the kitchen, the photos on the wall, the flowers she'd arranged just yesterday, the planning binder she'd left by the microwave, and felt a strange hollowness sweep over her. There had been no argument, no warning, nothing. Her phone buzzed on the counter. It was her fiancé, Jason. She stared at his name flashing on the screen, hesitated, then let it ring. What could she say? That her parents had just ended her wedding like a business transaction. That everything she'd worked for was now ash. By the time Jenny reached her car, her hands were trembling. She sat behind the wheel, gripping it tightly as the words replayed in her head. Wedding's off. She thought of her mother's smile the day they toured the venue together, of her father promising to cover the final payment. Lies. Her throat burned but no tears came. "Understood," she whispered, typing the same word into a text addressed to her mother before tossing her phone onto the passenger seat. The city outside felt eerily quiet as she drove home, each turn feeling heavier than the last. Her chest ached with something worse than anger, betrayal. That night, Jenny sat alone on her couch, still in her work clothes, the world muted around her. The blinds were half open, letting the streetlights cast thin golden lines across the room. She hadn't called anyone. She hadn't eaten. Her laptop glowed softly on the table before her, the open wedding folder filled with budgets, invoices, and photos she'd once loved. She stared at them, then slowly dragged them into a new folder titled Proof. Her reflection stared back from the dark screen, tired, quiet, but no longer broken. "You think I won't fight," she said softly, voice steady now. "You're wrong." The next day brought more than silence. A message arrived from her cousin Lily with the subject line, "You need to see this." Jenny clicked it open. A screenshot filled the screen, a family group chat titled Thompson Wedding Adjustments. Her stomach dropped as she read. Her mother, her father, and her younger sister Karen were planning a celebration using the same venue, the same date, even the same decorations. Only one thing had changed, the bride. "At least the photos will be cute this time," Karen had joked. Her mother had replied with a heart emoji. Jenny pressed a hand over her mouth, her heart pounding. "They didn't cancel it," she whispered. "They replaced me." Jenny drove to the dress boutique with the screenshot still open on her phone. The bell over the door chimed as she stepped inside. "Hi, I'm here for a pickup, Jenny Thompson," she said, forcing a smile. The owner, a woman named Maya, checked the computer, then glanced up nervously. "It shows the dress was released yesterday," she said. Karen Thompson. Jenny's fingers tightened around her bag. "That's my sister," she replied softly. "This was my dress." Maya swallowed. "Your mother called. She said there were family changes and you approved it." Jenny shook her head. "I didn't." Silence stretched. "Do you at least have the invoice?" Maya printed a copy. The line that used to read bride. Jenny Thompson now read bride. Karen Thompson. Jenny stared at the paper like it might change back if she stared long enough. "Can you tell me who made this update?" Jenny asked, her voice steady. Maya sighed. "Your mother emailed the request, then brought in a signed form." Jenny leaned closer. "Whose signature?" Maya glanced at the page. "It says Jenny T." Jenny exhaled slowly. "That's not mine." Maya's face softened. "I'm sorry," she said. "If I'd known." "It's not on you," Jenny cut in gently. "Thank you for showing me." She folded the invoice and slid it into her tote. As she turned to leave, the sales assistant whispered, I saw the photos on Instagram. The dress looked beautiful. Jenny paused at the door. I hope it fits her, she said, but her eyes didn't match the words. Outside, the bright daylight felt too clean for what had just happened. Back in her car, Jenny opened the boutique's Instagram. There was a glossy reel. The caption read, "So happy for Karen, perfect fall wedding." Jenny tapped it. Soft music played. Karen twirled in lace. Her parents smiled into the camera. The venue lights glowed warm and golden. The string quartet played the piece Jenny had chosen for her own walk down the aisle. Jenny watched the reel twice, then a third time, feeling something inside her go very still. She took screenshots, every frame, every tag, every timestamp. You wanted proof, she whispered to herself. Here it is. She saved the images into a folder called Proof and locked her screen with shaking hands. She called Jason. He answered on the second ring. Hey Jen. What's wrong? She kept her voice low. They took everything, she said. The date. The venue. The dress. Silence pressed through the speaker. Your family did that, he asked. My family, she said, almost laughing at the shape of the words. I found a note yesterday. Wedding's off. And now this. Jason's voice hardened. Do you want to fight? Jenny stared out at the street. I want to be careful, she said. Careful and complete. I'm collecting everything. Messages, invoices, posts. Jason breathed out. Whatever you need, I'm with you. Thank you, she whispered. I just needed to hear someone say it. At home, Jenny spread papers across the kitchen table. Receipts, email printouts, vendor quotes. She opened a new spreadsheet and began typing line by line. Date, amount, reason, who requested. Her hands moved with purpose. When she finished the first page, she opened a drawer and pulled out her old phone, the one with the cracked screen. It held years of voice memos and photos. She scrolled until a file caught her eye. Thanksgiving 2021-4. She tapped it. The sound of clinking silverware filled the room. Then her mother's voice, low and smooth. Jenny is a sweet girl, her mother said. But Karen is the one with potential. Jenny paused the recording, staring at the wall as if she could see that dinner playing out in front of her again. She hit play. Her father's voice floated in casual. Jenny doesn't push herself, he said. She's fine. The word landed like a stone. Her sister laughed softly. It's better if she keeps it simple. A chair scraped. Someone poured wine. Jenny closed her eyes. Fine, she repeated. Not special. Not enough. She saved the audio into her proof folder and labeled it Family Comparison, recorded by accident. Then she opened her messages and searched for old threads where Karen had asked for small loans. There were many. Emergency. Urgent. Please cover this. I'll pay you back Friday. Jenny screenshotted each one. Enough, she said under her breath. I'm done being invisible. Her phone rang. An unknown number. She almost let it go, then answered. Hello. A familiar voice came through, strained. Jenny, it's Mark. She stood straighter. Mark had been the man she almost built a life with 6 years ago. Why are you calling me? She asked. I heard about the wedding, he said. And I need to tell you something I should have said a long time ago. Jenny didn't speak. Your mother called my office, he continued. She told my manager you were unstable. She said I was making things worse for you. She said if I cared I'd step back. He swallowed. So I did. I thought I was protecting you. Jenny stared at the floor. You weren't, she said, but her voice was gentle. You were protecting her story. I know, Mark said. I'm sorry. I can send the emails if you want them. She didn't just talk to me. She wrote things down. Jenny took a slow breath. Send everything, she replied. All of it. He hesitated. Are you okay? She looked at the scattered papers, the open laptop, the quiet room. I'm getting there, she said. Thank you for calling. When the line clicked off, she set the phone down and opened a new subfolder. Outside interference. She typed, Mother contacted employer. Pattern of control. Then she stared at the cursor, blinking like a small, steady heartbeat. Keep going, she told herself. One step. Then the next. Jenny emailed the venue. Please confirm original deposit details and authorized contacts. The manager replied within the hour. We have records showing your mother as primary contact since last spring. Jenny replied, I am the payer. Please provide the payment history under my name. Minutes later a PDF arrived. The deposit line read paid by J. Thompson. The authorized contact line read primary, M. Thompson. Jenny printed it and added it to a folder labeled restitution. Then she messaged the florist. Could you resend the last invoice? She asked. The florist sent it with a cheerful note. The header read, Client, Karen Thompson. The signature block held Jenny's digital sign-off from months before. She circled it in red pen. You signed for me, she murmured, then wrote me out. She called Karen. Her sister answered with a bright, fake cheer. Finally decided to talk. Jenny kept her voice even. Take down the post, she said. And stop using my accounts. Karen laughed softly. You sound paranoid, she said. Mom said you'd do this. Look, the wedding fits me better. People will be happier. Jenny stared at the window. Happiness built on a lie doesn't last, she replied. Last chance, take it down. Karen's tone sharpened. Or what? Jenny didn't raise her voice. Or I stop being quiet, she said. And I stop protecting you. She ended the call, set the phone on the table and opened her laptop. Her folder names glowed back at her. Proof. Restitution. Outside interference. She clicked New Document and typed a title. What they took and how I'll take it back. Then she began. Jenny didn't sleep that night. Every sound in her apartment felt magnified. The hum of the refrigerator, the faint rustle of cars outside. Around midnight, she made tea just to have something to do with her hands. The steam fogged the window as she whispered. They won't stop until I disappear. She sat down and drafted a letter to her bank, requesting verification of every payment made from her account over the last 6 months. Then she opened her laptop again, attaching screenshots and invoices. Her eyes burned, but she kept typing. By the time dawn stretched across the blinds, she had organized every detail into one clear file. Family transactions, for legal review. 2 days later, her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Ms. Thompson, a woman's voice said. This is Allison from Mal Lister Financial. I wanted to confirm something unusual we received. A document showing your signature on a property transfer connected to the Thompson Family Trust. Jenny frowned. I never signed that. Allison hesitated. It looked off. I held it until we could speak. Jenny exhaled. Please keep it secure. I'll bring proof of the real documents tomorrow. When the call ended, Jenny rested her head in her hands. They forged me, she murmured. It wasn't anger now. It was confirmation that her family's betrayal wasn't emotional anymore. It was criminal. The next morning, Jenny dressed carefully. Navy blazer, clean white blouse, and a thin silver necklace she'd bought herself years ago. She walked into the financial office with her binder tucked under her arm. Allison met her with a kind but wary smile. I compared the signature, she said, sliding a copy of the forged document across the desk. Yours doesn't curl like this. Jenny studied it. The handwriting mimicked her loops, but the spacing was wrong. My mother writes like that, she said softly. Allison blinked. You're saying? Yes, Jenny interrupted. I'm saying she forged it. She laid down her copies of bank transfers, proof of her payments, and the original authorization sheets. I want this investigated. Allison nodded slowly. We'll begin today. That afternoon, as Jenny stepped out of the building, her phone buzzed again. Another notification. Access revoked. Joint house account. Her heart pounded, but her pace didn't falter. She called the bank. Freeze the account, she said firmly. Funds are in dispute. I have documentation. The rep asked for her ID, then confirmed. Done. Jenny hung up, looking out over the city street below. People walking, lives moving, laughter spilling from cafes. She realized for the first time that the chaos her family caused was just one small corner of the world. And somehow that perspective steadied her. You can erase me from your papers, she whispered, but not from the truth. That evening, Jenny made dinner for the first time in days. Plain rice and vegetables. She sat at the table with her food untouched, reading through a new email from her lawyer. We can counterfile for defamation and damages if they escalate publicly, it said. Jenny read it twice. If, she murmured, then opened her phone. Karen's post was still there, gathering sympathy from family friends who didn't know better. She's unstable. We've tried everything. Jenny took a deep breath, captured the post and the comments again, and saved them to her folder. She no longer felt humiliated. She felt ready. You want public, she said quietly. You'll get public, but this time the facts will speak. The next day, she received a heavy envelope by courier. She signed for it, thanked the man, and shut the door before she even opened it. Inside. Civil complaint. Thompson versus Thompson. Her eyes scanned the lines. They accused her of embezzling wedding funds, of emotional instability, of fabricating events to damage family reputation. Jenny almost laughed. So that's the story now. She placed the papers beside her mug and took a photo. Then she opened a new email addressed to her lawyer. Add this to our counterclaim. Defamation, malicious intent, emotional harm. She ended it with one line. They wanted silence. Choose evidence. By morning the case had a file number. Jenny's lawyer, Dana, called her to review next steps. They're trying to corner you emotionally, Dana said. Don't engage online. We'll handle it. Jenny nodded, even though the lawyer couldn't see her. Understood. Also, Dana continued, I'll need you to gather every financial trace you can. Receipts, screenshots, contracts. Jenny smiled faintly. Already done. There was a pause. You've been through a lot, Dana said softly. You sure you're ready for a fight like this? Jenny looked at the stacks of folders around her. Dana, I've been fighting my whole life, she replied. This is just the first time I get to win. Later that afternoon, the family's longtime PR manager, Victor Lang, called. Jenny, he began, his tone smooth as glass. I just wanted to advise you, keep things quiet. These scandals don't end well. Jenny leaned back in her chair. You mean they don't end well for her image? Your mother's worked hard for her reputation, Victor said quickly. Don't ruin it over emotions. Jenny smiled bitterly. Her reputation was built on mine. Maybe it's time she learns what truth costs. Jenny. He began, but she hung up. Then she opened her window, breathing in the cool evening air. The sky was turning gold, and for the first time in weeks, she felt lighter. That night, her mother posted a long emotional message on Facebook. It's painful when love turns to resentment, it began. All I ever wanted was what's best for my daughters. The comments poured in, neighbors, church friends, old co-workers, praising her strength. You're such a good mother. Some children just lose their way. Jenny printed every line, highlighted the names, and saved the screenshots. She didn't reply. Instead, she emailed Dana. Add these to the file. The public defamation has begun. Then she whispered to herself. They want sympathy. I want justice. Let's see which lasts longer. 3 weeks later, a court date was set. Jenny stood before her bathroom mirror on the morning of the hearing, fastening the same silver necklace she'd worn to every family event. Her reflection looked calm, but her eyes told another story. Tired, sharpened by truth. At the courthouse, she walked past reporters without a word. Inside, her mother stood stiff by the defense table, avoiding her gaze. Her sister looked pale, eyes darting nervously. The judge called the case. Thompson versus Thompson. Jenny's lawyer rose first, laying out the evidence. Contracts, bank transfers, voice recordings. Each fact landed like a clean strike. When the judge finally turned to Jenny, she spoke softly. "I'm not here for revenge," she said. "I'm here to stop pretending this is love." The courtroom was silent except for the shuffle of papers and the steady ticking of the clock above the bench. Jenny sat straight, her hands folded neatly in her lap while her lawyer continued to speak. Across the aisle, her mother's face stayed composed, but her fingers twisted the hem of her jacket again and again. Karen wouldn't meet her eyes. The judge examined the documents, occasionally lifting her gaze toward Jenny as if weighing her calm against the evidence in front of her. When it was time for the defense to speak, Julia, her mother, rose, her voice trembling just slightly. "Everything I did," she said, "was out of love." Jenny kept her expression still. Love doesn't need signatures forged, she thought. Julia's lawyer tried to redirect the story. "My client was concerned for her daughter's mental stability. She acted in her best interest," he said smoothly. Jenny's lawyer stood and asked a simple question. "Do you have any medical proof to support that?" The lawyer hesitated. The judge leaned forward. "If not, move on." Julia's cheeks reddened. "She was always emotional, unpredictable," the judge interrupted. "That's not evidence, Mrs. Thompson. That's opinion." The room went quiet again. Jenny looked down at her lap, her fingers resting on the edge of her binder. 4 years, her mother's voice had shaped her reality. But not today. Today, the truth had its own volume, and it didn't need to shout. Not today. Today, the truth had its own volume, and it didn't need to shout. After several hours, the judge finally spoke. "Based on the documents, bank statements, and testimonies presented, this court grants temporary authority of disputed funds to Ms. Jenny Thompson. Independent audits will determine the final distribution." Julia's mouth fell slightly open. Karen whispered something harsh under her breath. The judge continued. "I advise both parties to handle further disputes through mediation. This court will not entertain further emotional claims without factual support." The gavel struck once. The sound echoed, sharp and final. Jenny exhaled slowly. There was no triumph in her expression, only relief. For the first time, she felt like the ground beneath her wasn't shifting anymore. Outside the courthouse, the autumn air hit her face like a reset button. Reporters waited by the steps, microphones ready. "Ms. Thompson, do you have a statement?" One called. Jenny stopped, looked up at the line of cameras and said evenly, "When someone tells you silence is love, what they really mean is obedience. I don't do that anymore." Then she walked away. Her heels clicked against the pavement in rhythm with her heartbeat. Steady, certain, free. Behind her, flashes went off, but she didn't turn around. That chapter, she decided, was done. What came next would belong only to her. 2 weeks later, Jenny returned to her parents' house, not as a daughter seeking peace, but as a woman reclaiming closure. The door wasn't locked. The same lavender scent filled the hallway. Everything looked the same. The framed photos, the polished floors, the quiet hum of the refrigerator, but it all felt smaller now. She walked through the kitchen and placed a manila folder on the table. Inside were the settlement papers, her signature, and a single note. "I release you. Don't contact me again." She laid her old house key on top. For a moment she stood still, letting the silence settle. Then she turned and walked out, closing the door gently behind her. 3 days later, a white envelope appeared in her mailbox. No return address, no handwriting, just printed text and a check inside. The memo read, "Reimbursement for dress, venue, and emotional damages." The amount, $31,320. Jenny stared at it, her hands trembling slightly, not from anger this time, but from a strange sense of recognition. They hadn't apologized. They never would. But this was an admission, silent but undeniable. She placed the check under a small brass frame on her desk and slid a note beneath it. Proof they knew. She smiled faintly. "That's enough," she whispered. "That's more than I ever got before." Days turned into weeks. The tension that had once filled every hour slowly began to lift. Jenny started walking by the river again, sometimes with a cup of coffee, sometimes with her thoughts alone. People who had once avoided her messages began to reach out quietly. Former co-workers, neighbors, even a few relatives who had seen the news. But she didn't reply to most of them. She didn't need validation. What she needed was direction. She opened her laptop one morning and created a new document titled Thompson and Wells Foundation. Advocacy for Women in Crisis. The cursor blinked, patient and steady. For the first time in months, Jenny's heart felt light. A message popped up on her phone later that afternoon. It was from Lily, her cousin. "I saw what you did. If you ever need help with the foundation, I'm in." Jenny smiled. She typed back, "Thank you. There's room for everyone ready to tell the truth." She closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the calm that had once seemed impossible. No noise. No manipulation. Just peace. She remembered something her father once said during one of their rare kind moments. "Freedom isn't always loud, Jenny. Sometimes it's just knowing when to walk away." Now she understood. On a quiet Sunday morning, Jenny visited the local cafe where she used to plan her wedding menus. The same barista greeted her, surprised to see her again. "Haven't seen you in a while," he said. "New beginnings," she replied, smiling faintly. She ordered tea and sat by the window overlooking the park. Children laughed outside, couples strolled by, the world moving on effortlessly. She took out her notebook and began writing the foundation's mission statement. "We help women rebuild when trust has been broken. By family, by partners, by the people who should have loved them most." As she wrote, she felt something unfamiliar: contentment. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the city skyline, Jenny stood by her window holding her cup of tea. The street below buzzed softly with life, and she felt no anger, no sadness, only quiet strength. Her phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. She didn't open it. She didn't need to. Whatever it said, it couldn't touch her now. She whispered into the fading light, "You can't erase me anymore." Then she turned off the lights, walked to her desk, and wrote the final line of her foundation's proposal. "Freedom begins when silence ends." She smiled to herself, ready to start again. A few weeks later, the paperwork for the foundation was approved. Jenny stood in the small, sunlit office she had rented. A single room with pale walls, 2 desks, and the faint smell of fresh paint. On the door, a simple brass plate read, "Thompson and Wells Foundation." She ran her fingers over the letters, feeling a wave of pride wash through her. This space wasn't fancy, but it was hers. No one had signed for it in her place. No one could take it away. She pinned a quote above her desk that read, "You don't rebuild from rage, you rebuild from resolve." For the first time in a long while, she felt free enough to breathe deeply. In the weeks that followed, messages began pouring in from women across the country. Some from strangers, others from old classmates, a few from quiet followers who had read her story online. They wrote about betrayal, inheritance disputes, emotional manipulation, and the pain of being dismissed. Jenny responded to each one personally. "You're not crazy," she wrote to one woman. "You're just surrounded by people who profit from your silence." Those words resonated with her as much as with them. Every story she read reminded her that what she went through wasn't just personal. It was universal. Pain disguised as family loyalty had trapped so many. One morning, as she packed up folders for a meeting, her phone rang. It was Jason. She hesitated, then answered. "Hey," he said gently. "I heard everything turned out in your favor." "It's still messy," Jenny replied. "But it's mine to clean now." He chuckled softly. "You always were the strong one." She smiled faintly. "No, I just stopped pretending weakness was peace." There was a pause on the line. "Would you ever consider meeting up? Just as friends?" Jenny looked out the window at the morning light stretching across the pavement. "Maybe," she said. "But I'm not the same woman you left waiting at the altar." "I know," he replied. "That's why I called." She smiled as she hung up, not with hope but with closure. That evening, Jenny walked to the river where she used to sit and wonder what she had done wrong. The breeze was soft, carrying the faint scent of salt and jasmine. She watched the ripples glint beneath the setting sun, the orange glow spilling across the water like fire fading into gold. A small group of ducks drifted by, and she smiled, remembering how she once sat here in tears, wishing her life would start over. And now it had. Not through anyone's forgiveness or approval, but through her own courage. "I'm still here," she whispered. "And that's enough." The words felt like a prayer, one meant for no one but herself. Months later, Jenny stood before a small crowd at the opening of her foundation's first community seminar. Cameras flashed, reporters watched, but she didn't flinch. "This isn't about revenge," she began, her voice strong but warm. "It's about truth. Because when truth is silenced, people forget who they are." I nearly did. The room was quiet, every eye fixed on her. "Family isn't built on control," she continued. "It's built on respect and accountability. And sometimes, choosing yourself is the loudest way to love." Applause filled the room, steady and sincere. As Jenny stepped off the stage, she looked out the window, sunlight pouring across the river she once feared to cross. This time she didn't look back. She smiled softly and whispered, "Freedom begins when silence ends." And that was truly the end.